This video is about one of the greats of modern Italian literature, philosophy and art, Dino Buzzati. I believe Buzzati should be far better known than he is, and would have been had he written in English or French. He is often referred to as the Italian Kafka or Italian Camus, as if we need to define him with reference to someone else. In fact, he resented the comparisons and complained that if he wrote a telegram, people would say it was Kafkaesque. He lived from 1906 to 1972, mainly in Milan, and produced novels, short stories, plays, paintings and illustrations, as well as over 40 years of journalism for the leading newspaper Corriere della Sera. He was a pioneer of magic realism, graphic novels and existentialism, and lived a full and productive life. He is probably best known for his novel Il deserto dei Tartari, translated into English with the off-putting title The Tartar Steppe, which has been described as the most underrated philosophical novel of all time. I'm going to refer to it as the Desert of the Tartars in this video, as the desert is an important aspect of the book. I first read it when I was a student and interpreted it as a warning against the monotony and pointlessness of office life. After nearly 30 years of working in an office, I still love the book, although I take something different from it. It tells the story of a young soldier, Giovanni Drogo, who is sent to a border fortress in uninhabited mountains on the edge of a desert, across which are said to live the hostile Tartars. When he first arrives, Drogo is struck by the pointlessness of the soldiers' lives. They've never seen the Tartars, and there's no expectation that they will ever appear, and instead carry out undemanding military exercises and follow the same routines every day. Even worse, some of them have been there for decades. He asks to be sent home and is told he can go, but is persuaded to stay just a few more months, so he can return with honour, which he agrees to do. After further extensions and delays, when he returns home, he finds he no longer fits in back in the city, and his friends and family have become distanced from him, and he goes back to the fortress. In the end, he stays there for many years. I won't spoil the story and say whether the Tartars do or do not eventually appear. French writer and philosopher Albert Camus introduced Buzzati's work to France, including staging one of his plays, and The Desert of the Tartars has been compared with Camus' Myth of Sisyphus, about the man punished by the gods to roll a stone up a mountain for eternity, only for it to roll back down the hill each time. Similarly, is there any point in Drogo's existence, guarding a frontier seemingly without any enemy? Does it need the enemy to give meaning to a life spent guarding? Buzzati doesn't directly answer the question of whether this is the life that Drogo wanted, but I suspect that he thinks it is. As with Camus, I found the book inspiring, as well as being beautifully written. To me, it's about turning routine into ritual, of appreciating and engaging with what you have, however mundane it may appear. The meaning of life is the lived experience of life itself. The Desert of the Tartars was made into a film in the 1970s with Vittorio Gassman, and some of the pictures here come from that film. I definitely prefer the book, as a film based on a book in which nothing much happens for most of the time faces some cinematic challenges. Buzzati put his thinking into practice and wrote other novels and short stories as well, including a children's book which he also illustrated, The Bears' Famous Invasion of Sicily, featuring a family of bears who are corrupted by city life. I like his short story Dolce Notte, or Sweet Night, about a simple garden, which seems to be quiet and peaceful, but is in fact the theatre of the great chain of being, with tiny creatures battling for survival. Buzzati was also an accomplished artist, and his work is reminiscent of the so-called metaphysical art of people like Giorgio de Chirico. Like his books, there's something not right, some sort of disconnection between the subject and its surroundings, which I think reflects the human condition. This is his painting of the Duomo of Milan, which I think is wonderful. He was brought up in the mountains north of Milan, and mountains are a recurring theme in his work. As an illustrator, he contributed to the rich Italian culture of graphic novels, which probably deserve a video of their own, and much like Buzzati, deserve to be read more widely in the English-speaking world. Italian author Umberto Eco said, "I can read the Bible, Homer, or Dylan Dog for several days without being bored." As a journalist, Buzzati was a war correspondent, embedded with the Italian Navy in the Second World War, as well as a columnist, foreign correspondent, crime reporter, art critic and sports reporter, mainly covering winter sports, of course. He said that fantasy should be as close as possible to journalism, with an element of making it banal. In his short story, Cronica del 2000, he imagines he has slept for 40 years and wakes in the Milan of the year 2000, in which people carry pocket TVs called teletini, which they can use to talk to each other, and people spend days just talking on their teletini, which we would call smartphones. I don't know if that's fantasy fiction or journalism. There are a couple of things about Buzzati which I would like to know more about. He was said to be shy, and I don't know what his politics were, which is unusual for a figure in the partisan and political world of Italian journalism in the 50s and 60s. He also married, when he was 60, a woman 35 years younger than him, and I'm sure there's a story to be told there. Unfortunately, Dino died from cancer in 1972 when he was just 65. He was an atheist. Buzzati was a remarkable man who deserves to be better known. I was delighted to see the Tartar Steppe has been reviewed on YouTube, so I hope people will continue to be drawn to his work, which I suspect will be timeless and continue to be relevant to anyone who is human. If you would like to see more videos vaguely connected to things Italian, please do click the like button, subscribe, and do things which are friendly to the all-powerful YouTube algorithm before which we all bow.